All right. In the interest of time, it's 5 past 5, so I'll get us started. So welcome to xCITE. It's wonderful to have so many of you joining us, and I can see that number is still going up. For those of you I don't know, I'm Lucy Gilson, and I am the Associate Dean for Faculty and Outreach here at the UConn School of Business. The goal of xCITE has always been to connect women entrepreneurs, and this year is no different. So thank you to Jen Murphy and Charisse Marcelin from the CCI who put this together for us. Welcome to our friends from SBDC and the UConn Family Business Program, our students who are all here as either participants or attendees. One of the goals really for all of us at the UConn School of Business is to convene important conversations, and I really believe that's what we're doing tonight. And I love that you'll hear from speakers who are business school alum, who are UConn alum, nothing to do with the business school, non-alumni as well, but they're all going to share with all of us their passion for entrepreneurship. And this is really what building a community is all about. Charlene Walters, who is actually a UConn English alum, who is new to our entrepreneurship family, is going to talk to us tonight about her new book and about the importance of pivoting and having to change and adapt, which is something that we've all had to do this year. With xCITE, many of you have attended our in-person conferences over the past few years. Our pivot has meant in part that we're moving online. But more importantly, I think one of the things that we're doing is really listening to all of you, and a lot of you have given us feedback about how we can really build this community of women entrepreneurs working together, supporting each other, and the importance of that community at a time like this. A lot of you have said that you really sort of have felt distant from your social networks when we've been, in lockdown or working remotely. And we all know that entrepreneurship at the best of times can be a lonely experience. So how can we, really look to build this network? And I'm going to talk to you at the end a little bit about our follow-up sessions that are going to be more akin to mastermind groups. But before I get ahead of myself and talk about what comes next, let's talk a little bit more, excuse me, about tonight. So we're going to start with our presentation by Charlene, who I'll introduce to you in a minute, and then we'll move to our panel discussion. And what I love about our panel is that each of these women is going to describe what it means to them to be an entrepreneur in a very different way. But also, how often do you get together or convene, right, a group of women who are going to talk about racial equity, the law, swimwear, co-working spaces, audience engagement, and trash, right? Like, how exciting is that we're going to have this conversation, which really covers all aspects of entrepreneurship. So before we go to our panel, let me start by introducing Charlene Walters, who, as I said, is a UConn alum, but who is also an entrepreneurship coach, business and branding mentor, trainer, and author of Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur, 10 Mindset Shifts for Women to Take Action, Unleash Creativity, and Achieve Financial Success. She serves as a mentor on Entrepreneur Magazine, Ask an Expert Forum, and through her own consulting business, featured among other CEOs, influencers, and celebrities on the BAM network. Was recently selected as one of the 150 marketers to follow by I can never say this word, Rubicli. All right, Charlene, you're going to help me with that one, because I've practiced that one all day and I still can't say it. Anyway, Charlene, let me hand over to you, and welcome, and glad to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I am so happy to be here tonight and to talk to all of you about launching your inner entrepreneur and making those mindset adjustments to be more successful as a women business owner. A little bit more about me. You heard my bio, of course, but I wanted to tell you about some of the steps I've taken from my time at UConn to where I am today. So I grew up in Connecticut, and I always hated the cold weather. I couldn't wait to get out of there. So as soon as I graduated with my undergraduate degree, I moved to Miami, Florida. In Miami, I got a job as a sales associate at a floral importing company. We imported fresh cut flowers from Colombia and Ecuador. And the way that market works, the floral market, it's sort of like the stock market. The prices of flowers go up and down based on supply and demand. And I found it really, really fascinating. I excelled at sales, and I wanted to learn more about business. So I went back to school and got my MBA. And when I finished that, I thought, you know what? It's time for me to get a new opportunity. I have an MBA now. So I looked for open positions and I saw a job listing and it said must have an MBA. And I thought, well, I have an MBA. It was for an associate dean at a college for the business department. So there I learned all about our faculty, our students, about higher ed, about adult learners, and gained so much. But at some point I thought, you know what? I want to go and get a little bit more business experience. Maybe I'm a little young to be in higher ed. So I went back to my original employer and got a job as a customer relations manager. And there I traveled across the country visiting our clients through the wholesalers, and I would take them out to lunch, take them out to dinner. I was schmoozing all the time. I even went to a cattle auction with our customers in South Carolina. Whatever they wanted to do, I did it. And I picked up a lot of skills about building rapport and really the importance of customer relationships. While I was doing that job, I met my husband, Patrick, who is a military pilot, and we got married and I moved with him to California. So in California, I had to get a new position. I got a job as a marketing communications director, and I was in charge of our trade shows, our company's website, our brochures, of doing product installations. It was medical devices, so we were doing installations at hospitals and universities, and I also worked with our board there, again, picking up more information. And while in California, I also had my first daughter, Avery. And as you know, if you're a mom, that requires a whole new skill set too. So I did that, but eventually Patrick retired from the military after 30 years, and we moved back to the East Coast. He got a job in South Carolina, and I had the baby and I had to get a new job. So I thought, I'll teach from home remotely. I taught business and marketing courses, and that way I can have a flexible schedule with the baby. And also it looked like Patrick was just going to keep moving on me, and I thought at least I can bring my job with me. So I did that for a while, and then Avery turned 1, and I thought the baby's 1. I'll go back to school and get a PhD in marketing because that was my background. So while I was doing the PhD, I had my second daughter, Tegan. My girls were 2 years back to back in school, and we were this nice little happy family of 4 living in South Carolina. When my girls were 2 and 4, Patrick left for work one day and just never came home. He was killed in a helicopter crash. So this was a very tragic period in my life, very sad. I didn't think I'd ever be able to raise my 2 girls on my own, or be able to finish my PhD, or do all the things I wanted to professionally. But as any woman who's in that situation does, I dug deep and I just kept going on. So I finished my PhD. I raised my 2 girls. They're both in high school now. And I went on to take on more positions professionally. Many of them were in curriculum, which became a love of mine, until I eventually created a digital entrepreneurship MBA program. I was working on our curriculum, our courses, the content. I got to work with great entrepreneurs out there, and also our great team. During that time, I also became a mentor on Entrepreneur Magazine's Ask an Expert platform, where again, I was working with more entrepreneurs like yourself. I also went on to write 2 books, one about entrepreneurship, which you'll hear a little bit more about tonight, and also one about overcoming tragedy and loss and moving forward in life as a single mom. During that time, I had a side hustle, which I eventually took to become a full-time entrepreneur. So I do consulting, training, and mentoring. So the reason I tell you this whole big long story is that I want you all to know that life is not a straight path. There are many ups and downs and different stops along the way, but you're always picking up valuable skills, and the path to entrepreneurship is not a straight one. I also tell you about my personal experience just in case you're ever going through something similar. I just want you to know that no matter what happens, you can do whatever you put your mind to. It's about changing your mindset and just keeping on going no matter what, particularly in entrepreneurship, because we'll hit ups and downs, as Lucy was talking about earlier. So that brings us to the heart of our talk tonight, which is about entrepreneurial mindset and the shifts you can make to change that. So the first mindset shift or move you can make is to take action. Being an entrepreneur is scary. It's lonely. We as women, we like that nice, comfy paycheck that we're getting every other week. And so making that jump into entrepreneurship can be really challenging for us. But what I like to advise entrepreneurs who are getting into it is to start with a side hustle. If you're already in business, you might have done this already, But if you haven't, this is a good way to start planning for your business, getting it going, building some traction before you make that total jump into entrepreneurship. And you're going to have to keep taking action the whole time. It's all about formulating plans and then executing them. And then when things go wrong, pivoting and moving ahead. Also, another important aspect of taking action is really researching your target market, where you want to end up. It should be one that aligns with your skills, your interests, your expertise, and one that you feel passionate about, because you want to have that passion and that love for it, because you'll be doing it day in and day out. You should research the competition that's already out there, the industry, find out where there's an unmet need or a hole in the market and how you can fill it. Once you do that, then you'll research your target audience, the ones who are best matched for that particular product or service that you come up with. You'll want to know everything you can about them. You want to know their demographics, what they like, what they don't, what they're into, what they're not. The better you know them, the better you'll be able to develop your messaging to them and attract prospects and convert them into customers. And sometimes your market changes once you're into it already, so you have to keep doing that research. Planning is big, as I mentioned, and obviously a good way to start is with a business plan. Many of you, I'm sure, have already created business plans, but if you haven't yet, it's not as overwhelming as it might seem. You can tackle it a little bit at a time, and there are templates online to help you. In it, you'll contain all sorts of information about your product, your service, about your management team, about your sources of funding, what your marketing plan is, what your social media strategy is, what are your strategic goals for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line. And you will use this as your roadmap. But also, if you are looking to get a loan or some additional funding or attract investors, you can use the business plan as well. Something else that's very important as part of this mindset shift is really getting into a selling mindset. And as women, we sometimes have a negative connotation associated with sales. We don't want to be seen as pushy, aggressive, as bugging or annoying anyone. And we've really got to get over that way of thinking. Sometimes we're brought up to be a little more polite, and that's just something about being a woman, but we want to get over that. We are a salesperson from the moment we jump into entrepreneurship, and we're not bugging anyone, we're not annoying anyone, we are actually helping them. We have something of value to give them, and we're matching that product or that service with the right customer. So completely change the way you think about sales. And when you're in business, I see a lot of entrepreneurs jump into business and they want to spend a lot of money on a website, or they want to spend a lot of money on brochures, t-shirts, you name it. And really you have to concentrate on only those things that will generate revenue for you, because that is the most important thing that you need to get going at first in order to keep your business in it for the long haul. So always make those revenue generating activities top of mind, priority for your business. That's what's really going to take you further. If you're struggling with any of the initial areas related to setting up your business or jumping in, it can help to find a mentor. There are plenty of mentors out there. As I mentioned, I'm one. There's a number available through the SBA. And a mentor can really help you define your goals and hold you accountable to attain them. So often I work with entrepreneurs and they have 1,000,001 ideas, right? And we all do, of course. But it's just a question of streamlining those and breaking them down into the first 2 or 3 that you want to achieve, and then outlining the micro steps that it will take for you to get there, and then moving on to your next set of goals. And then you check back in with your mentor. It can really help you, talk you through into what you want to do. You often know what you want to do, but you need a little help in kind of fine-tuning that path. It's also super important as part of your entrepreneurial mindset to believe in your message. If you don't believe in your product, your service, your business, yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. So make sure that you jump into something that you're really passionate about and that you believe in. Your second entrepreneurial mindset move or shift is embracing an entrepreneurial attitude. And entrepreneurs are different. They're innovative, they're out there, they're movers, they're shakers, they take risks. And again, this is another area we as women have to work on. We sort of like things a little bit more comfortable, and we don't necessarily put ourselves out there sometimes as much as we could. But in order to become successful as an entrepreneur, we need to take those risks. And we have to also work on growing our confidence. there's something that's known as a confidence gap between men and women. And there's a famous study at Hewlett Packard by McKinsey where they found that men will apply for jobs when they have 60% of the qualifications versus women who will only apply when they have 100% of those same qualifications. And I'm sure you've seen this out there in the corporate world. You sometimes see men go into positions that you thought, how did they get in there? I'm not sure about that one, because they're throwing their name out there more. So we have got to, as women, get more comfortable being uncomfortable. The more we push ourselves, the more we'll achieve. And actually, being uncomfortable is a good thing because we'll prepare more, we'll research more, we'll take classes, we'll do what it takes to increase that confidence and really pull it off. As an entrepreneur, you also have to really be mindful of self-sabotage. That goes along with growing your confidence, but self-sabotage is really when you're talking yourself out of opportunities. You could be talking yourself out of launching a business, or maybe you're hitting some kind of rejection and you tell yourself you're not good enough, you can't do it. And that is absolutely not true. You can do whatever you put your mind to. So if you're struggling a little bit, you might make a list of all those things about yourself that are wonderful. All of your skills, all of your talents, all of your abilities, all of your accomplishments. Ask your friends and family to add to it and hang it somewhere in your office. So when you feel your confidence wane, you can refer to it and you can remind yourself of how wonderful you are and that you can do anything. Something else that's common for entrepreneurs is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is that feeling that you don't really belong, or you've gotten lucky with your accomplishments, or that you don't deserve to be along others in your industry. And many people suffer from imposter syndrome. I have from time to time. And again, this is just baloney. This is not true. You have to remind yourself, give yourself a mantra. Charlene, you're amazing. Susan, you've got this. Whatever it is to pull you out. You belong exactly where you are. You have achieved what you have because you're smart and you've worked hard and you deserve every accomplishment that's coming to you. Another area that women sometimes have to get comfortable with is that not everyone's going to like you. You're going to sometimes have haters, unfortunately. And the more successful you become, the more likely they're to be out there. Sometimes they're people you know, they're friends, family, and sometimes they're strangers. When it's someone that you know and they're kind of raining on your parade or telling you not to do your business or that you can't do something, the best thing you can do is remain calm, try not to take it personally, and really talk to them and find out why they're resisting you or your business. Hopefully you'll be able to win them back over, but if you can't, you might just have to put some distance between yourself and them, because you need to surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up, because being a business owner takes a lot of internal strength. If it's someone that you don't necessarily know, maybe they're posting a negative review online, or maybe they're saying something to you on social media, again, remain calm, respond professionally, see if you can win them back over. And if you can't, just look at what they're telling you, see if there's any kind of feedback that you can take and improve from. Otherwise, just detach yourself from it and let it go. Don't let it get to you. The more haters you have is actually an indication that you've become more successful. I know back in my early days on Twitter, I had somebody retweet something I said and with a negative comment, and I was absolutely heartbroken. I thought, why did they do that, you know? So I stepped back, I didn't respond right away, and I researched it, and he had like 5 followers, but still, you know, I thought it was the end of the world. Really, when I looked into it deeper, I found that he was doing this to other people. So again, learn not to take it personally, and as you get more and more successful, you'll likely have a gang of haters. As I mentioned in my intro, in my path to get here today, there is no quick path for anyone to become successful in business or otherwise. It's a lot of ups and downs and zigs and zags, and we're going to fail a lot along the way. So we have to get comfortable with it. We have to learn to pivot and become resilient, which, as we discussed, there's been a lot of that this year. What the problem is often we see somebody at the top of their success, but we don't see all of the rejections, the failures, the years of hard work that they put in before that. We just see the top. So we think that it's just that easy. And it's really not. A lot of times people will say, how have you done all the cool things you have? How can I do the same thing? And I could tell them exactly what I've done, but that same path cannot be traced. For people are all different. They have to take their own unique approach and find different opportunities and different ways to go. But if you know what you want, you will achieve it. And part of that is really understanding your why. Why are you launching this business? Why are you in the business you're in? What do you hope to accomplish? The more you understand your why, the better able you'll be able to figure out your how. And at the end of the day, you are the business owner and you are driving the ship forward. You really have to take ownership. Even if you're outsourcing some of the tasks, you know that you are still the ultimate one who is responsible. No one is going to be as passionate, as focused, as committed to getting things happen. So never let go of that ownership. Again, the more passion you have for your business, the better it is you'll be able to get up every day with renewed energy, tackle things, particularly when there's setbacks, and know that there will be lots of failure along the way, but the more you fail, the more you'll innovate and move ahead. Be persistent, be gritty, and you'll make it happen. Something else that is necessary as part of your entrepreneurial mindset is really developing patience. And this is one I struggle with. I don't have a lot of patience, but I'm getting better at it. Again, anything worth having is going to take so much hard work and a long wait to get there. Just stick with it. Understand that entrepreneurship is a long game. When it comes to failing and setbacks, as I've talked about, we'll have a lot of them. We have to look at things in terms of finding the silver lining. So say we lost a big client that we really loved and we're very upset about it. What can we learn from that? Well, perhaps they gave us the feedback that we need to improve our product or service, which is ultimately a good thing. Maybe we've lost that one big client, but now we can go after 4 or 5 more that are going to be more profitable in the long run. Maybe we've gotten furloughed or laid off, or we didn't get a promotion we wanted. So now is our opportunity to shine, to go out there and start that business that we've always wanted to. No matter what, if we get stuck, we need to get unstuck. So there'll be times when I hit a minor failure or something doesn't go the way I wanted it to, and I'll find myself in this kind of negative funk, right? So then I just tell myself, you know what, Charlene, take an hour off, take 2 hours off, and come back to it. I'll go for a run. I will hang out with my kids. I'll call a friend. Whatever you can do to get unstuck and change your mindset, because you won't be productive until you do, go to those things that give you energy to keep going. The third mindset move or shift that you need to make is branding and building presence. And this is another big one for women. Personal branding is important for everyone, whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur. And men are actually more likely to put themselves out there and trumpet their accomplishments than women. Women sometimes think they can just put their head down and work really hard and everyone's going to notice, and that's not necessarily the case. One time at a position, I did a little experiment with this. I was doing the same things I always was, but I decided to start publicizing them a little bit more. And everybody kept saying, oh, Charlene's really stepping it up now. But it wasn't really true. I was doing exactly what I had been before. I was just advertising. So get better about that, about increasing your visibility. And when you're working on your personal brand, think about 2 to 3 areas that you want to be known for that align with your business, and start putting out content, valuable content that you can use to showcase that expertise. You can do this through writing and speaking. I often recommend when you want to start writing, blogging is a good way to go. There are blogging capabilities built right into many websites. I have a blog called Entrepreneurship, Life Enthusiasm, and Energizing Your Brand. And when people are looking at you, they can read your blog posts and get a better handle on you. You can also get subscribers, and it's a great way to drive people to your website. You can also contribute to media outlets through organizations like Haro, Media, Kitty, Pitch Rate. Those are great for really matching experts with writers and media outlets that are looking for quotes. So again, make use of that. You can also write a book. There are plenty of publishing opportunities now available, more so than ever before. And you can also engage in speaking. You can do webinars, you can do workshops, you can do live sessions, YouTube videos, tips. You can actually be a speaker at events or for corporate training. Lots of opportunities, including podcasting, which is more and more popular now. Due to the pandemic, people are listening to it, and podcasting is also great because you can bring on guests in your industry, people that you want to get to know, which helps you to increase your networking, which is what we'll talk about next. Networking and leveraging social media are really essential for building that visibility. And networking is why we're all here tonight, right? To connect with other women so that we can support each other and lift each other up. Men, again, sometimes do better with this in the business environment. There's the boys clubs, and people are, men are looking out for each other, giving each other opportunities, whereas women sometimes aren't quite as great as this. And so we want to do those things to where we can increase that networking and increase that support. And mastermind groups are a great way to do that. I'm in a mastermind group with 4 women I met at a conference. We all just really hit it off. We meet once a month on Zoom. We talk about each other's businesses. We give each other ideas. We held each other accountable. And if we're stuck, we help get each other unstuck. So really a good idea. And I encourage you to take advantage of this network and really use it to your advantage to form those groups. You also want to network on social media platforms, and you can't be everywhere, of course. So I always suggest choosing 2 to 3 that are really important for you or that you really prefer, and where you'll find your target audience. If you're selling B2B, of course, that's probably LinkedIn. If you're selling B2C, it'll be different depending. I tend to like Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn as my top 3. And on all 3 of those, I have formed connections. I've gotten opportunities. Somebody will read an article I wrote on LinkedIn and ask me to do a podcast interview, or someone will invite me to do a live session on Instagram, or someone else will ask me to do a webinar for them. So really make use of getting to know people in your network. The more you engage in the conversation, the more you're going to be able to pull out of that. Also connect with influencers who are already in your space, who already have a conversation going, because you'll learn a lot from interacting and watching them. The last part of this entrepreneurial mindset shift that I think is really important, and we talked a bit about this earlier, but it's pivoting and being resilient. This is the name of the game in entrepreneurship because things change all the time. Business is relentless. Think about this past year that we've had. It's been crazy. And we've all, if you've had a business, you've had to pivot and find new ways of interacting with your customers, getting your products and services to your customers. Maybe you've had to go virtual. Maybe you've had to incorporate delivery services. But pivoting will always be with you. And all of this change has actually been a good thing in many ways, because now if another pandemic happens in the future, you're ready for it. You know what to do, and you've got your plan in place already. And also, for example, I work out with a personal trainer 3 times a week. I used to go in person, but then the pandemic hit and they had to go virtual. So I started the virtual sessions, and I still do the virtual sessions. And when things go back to normal, which we hope they will eventually, the good news here is that those people that travel a lot for business or who are going on vacations can still keep doing their virtual training. And they can even extend their geographical area so that they can actually increase their revenue over the long run. So look at the silver lining there. And in some cases, the pandemic has actually created new business opportunities for people. So anything related to virtual events, customer delivery, those things that are in line with homeschooling and tutoring, all of the additional burden placed on parents has caused there to be a need for additional services, right? Think of all those people that started mask companies out there and who are making a lot from that today. Also matching masks and outfits. If you're like me, you'd like to have that matching mask. So there can always be new opportunities. You need to develop your mindset to really kind of pay attention to that and look for those opportunities. Also, anyone who's been furloughed or laid off during this pandemic, now this might be just the time for them to launch that business that they've always dreamed about. The good silver lining in a bad situation. So again, look at the silver lining during the pandemic. I know it's been hard for many people, but you have to keep pivoting and being resilient in entrepreneurship and life. Finally, the last point I want to make here, this is really important for women business owners, is to practice self-care. We as women, and many studies have found this, we have a harder time balancing the load related to our households, our families, and our businesses than men. More of the burden falls on us. Not saying that there aren't men out there who aren't doing a lot, and I'm sure they are, but it tends to fall on us. And when that happens, we put ourselves as women last on our own to-do list. So we really have to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. We are eating well, we are sleeping, we are exercising and doing those things that are important to us, because the more in balance we are, the happier and healthier we are, the better our business will be and the more successful we shall become. So put yourself front and center at the top of your own to-do list. So that is a high-level overview of the different mindset shifts that I talk about in my book. Those are the first 3. I go into them in more depth along with 7 others in my book, Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur, which is available on Amazon for pre-order. It'll be out in February. If you're interested in all in that, I would be thrilled if you would check it out. Of course, putting a book together is a lot of work, but I really enjoyed it. And I really focused on those areas that I thought women business owners could benefit from and where there were studies that found that there were deficiencies. So again, it's all about honing your mindset to become successful and sticking with it for that long haul that it will take to make your business a success. If you want to find out more about me, my website is charlenewalters.com. I'm also on social, C. Walters PhD on Twitter, Charlene Walters PhD on Instagram and LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect. And we have more of a treat in store for you tonight. We are going to hear from some amazing panelists who are women business owners, and you'll get some tips and hacks from them. I'll be asking them some questions about their businesses, about themselves, and hearing other journeys of other women entrepreneurs really helps us become more successful, and it helps grow and increase our network. So I am going to pull them up here on screen. And we've got Shannon, Medina, Julie, Felicia, and Haley. And I want them first to tell us a little bit about their background and their business. And I am going to start with Shannon.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Charlene. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed hearing your story and all the great tips and information you shared about becoming an entrepreneur. My name is Shannon Malkin-Daniels, and I am the founder and CEO of Incaptive, which is an audience engagement platform for in-person, virtual, and hybrid presentations and events. How I got into this is I'm a communication expert. I have a master's in interpersonal communication, and I spent the majority of my career and communication roles running sales and marketing departments, communication related stuff. I also taught public speaking and communication at Iona College and Columbia University. And I did all that before starting Incaptive, and really just saw a need and for better presentation tool and better audience engagement and interaction, and went after it. And some of my other accomplishments as an entrepreneur is I've been named a Fairfield County 40 under 40, and I got to speak at a TEDx.
That's amazing, Shannon. Wow, that's really impressive. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
Medina, can we hear from you next?
Sure. So I am Medina Jett. And first I want to say, Charlene, thank you so much for that. It's like some of the things that we all think we know, hearing them again really crystallizes a lot of information. So even though we're running our own businesses, it always helps to hear some of those key messages again. And I'm going, gee, when did I last post on social media? Like anything like that. But a little bit about me. I am an attorney by trade. I grew up in private practice, went into corporate law. Before I knew it, I was the chief compliance officer at some very major Fortune 500 companies, all in the Connecticut area. I had returned to Connecticut after going to Wesleyan, which is in Connecticut. I left, went to DC for law school at Georgetown, came back to Connecticut, and started to realize that I wanted to do something different. I had been a lawyer, a chief compliance officer, all of my career, and someone mentioned UConn Executive MBA program. So I attended UConn Executive MBA in 2006 to 2008. And while I was there, I got the entrepreneurial bug. We had to do a class presentation where we basically designed our own company. I called it, company in a box, where you're creating your business plan, your marketing strategy, your financial metrics. And having done all that, I said, gee, why am I not doing this? And so after I graduated in May or June of 2008, I returned to my position and I just wasn't feeling satisfied. Like I should go out and give a shot at running my own business. And so I decided to do that. And so the summer of 2008, I resigned my position and started Integrated Compliance Solutions Group, which is basically a company that serves the financial services market. we provide outsourced compliance services, legal services for primarily private equity funds, hedge funds, alternative asset managers. And I did that at the beginning of the Great Recession, if you all will recall what was going on in 2008. And so it was a very tumultuous time. It had me thinking, did I make the right decision? Is this where I really should be? But I made it through the Great Recession. Things started to turn around for my clients and for the business. And then fast forward 12 years later, in 2020, I realized that this marked the 30th year of my career since I had gotten out of law school. And I was starting to wonder, is this the end for me, or is there something more that I want to do? And so I started a new business, and that new business is called Jet Speaks. And Jet Speaks really leverages all of the learnings that I obtained over the course of 30 years as a senior executive in corporate America and then as an entrepreneur, and really gives that information so that I now do what you do. I mentor other business owners, primarily women and people of color, one track in their corporate development, and then in the other track for entrepreneurs who are looking to start and scale their companies. And then as I was getting going with Jet Speak 6 months into it, I got, as we say, one of those offers I couldn't refuse. And my compliance firm was acquired. And so it's sort of the penultimate for an entrepreneur, right? To have your business finally reach that level of value. And so I sold my compliance firm on November 1st, and I'm still continuing on, really just pouring out what I've learned along my journey to help other women and other people of color reach the same level. So that's my story, and I'm excited to be here. It's my honor to be on the panel with all the wonderful women.
That is wonderful, Medina. Such a great background and such a, a valuable asset to our team here, and so many people can learn from you. Thank you so much for sharing your background. Julie, how about you?
Hi there. Let's see. It's so nice to be here in a group full of all these amazing people. You all definitely impress me. I am slightly different in that I did not actually start my business. So I am actually fourth generation of Payne's Recycling and Rubbish Removal. I am the vice president, and I started out thinking I would never be here. I honestly had no idea where I wanted to be. In high school, I had a job before I could have a job. And then I got, the next, and it was the next, but I never really could figure out what I wanted to do. I had been working for a daycare chain that, although I had learned a lot there, I really learned what I didn't want to be and didn't want to be around, which oddly was equally helpful for my future here. So in 2007, just a bit before that, I applied to work at my family company, and I didn't get the job. I tried so hard, and they were like, no, you're not ready. This isn't the one for you. So then fast forward a little, in 2007, I tried again. And I was like, I got nothing else. Let me give it a shot and see if I can do this. And I was hired, and I had a lot to learn. They might have been right. I don't like to admit that every once in a while. I found out I like to work with people. That had been the one thing that had carried over from all my jobs. I enjoy connecting with people and talking with them. And it is now something that I am using to bring our 90-plus-year-old company into the next generation. I am trying my best to put a little class back in our trash. And
that's a good goal.
And it's something that I think I'm doing an all right job at. But it's definitely a male-driven industry, and there are moments where I definitely question what I am doing, and I have an incredible support team here with me, and in groups like this where I can connect with people, and that is really pushing me forward. And
amazing.
Where I go.
It's nice to hear that family story and background and how you've grown in your position. Really cool to hear. Okay, how about Felicia? Let's hear from you.
Hi. First off, I just wanted to thank everybody for letting me be part of this amazing group of presenters. And listening to you, Charlene, I felt like I should have been reading this before I started my whole journey, but it's basically everything that I've been through. So I had started a space about 1.5 years ago called Haven. It's a flexible workspace for enterprising women to connect, create, and grow and get stuff done wherever they are in their life and life journey. And really, Haven is kind of the culmination of my whole professional and personal life. So actually, before we started, Jen was saying, hey, you look like you're at Haven right now, and I'm actually in my home office, but it does look like Haven. So if you go into this space, it's me. And just a little bit about my background. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades and a master of none. I have an eclectic background. I was an engineer by training, a mechanical engineer, and then went on to biomedical engineering. But I always had interest in marketing, and when I had gone to college, I didn't know that there was a career in marketing. And if I had, I probably would have gone that direction too. But I'm glad that I have both the engineering and marketing side. I worked at Apple and GE and other corporations and absolutely loved it. At 30 years old, I decided to start a family, and it was hard to balance the whole working full time and taking care of the kids. So I stepped down and never intended on leaving corporate, but I started my own marketing agency, had that for 16 years, and it worked really well. It was a lifestyle business, but it actually turned into taking over my life. So I would say that would be my first entrepreneurial experience. And I was working 80 hours a week. And I loved it. I had all sorts of passion for it. I wound up hiring 16 women, and we all worked virtually. But that's kind of where I came up with the idea to create a co-working space, because it was something that I needed as a woman trying to balance my life. I needed that support system, and I needed a place. So I hope, everybody can come and visit my space sometime and see what it feels like. But it's really all about supporting an ecosystem of women wherever they are. And just a little side note, I'm also a mother of 2 boys, and they are in the working world now, and one is in marketing and one is an engineer. And the engineer is the one, he works for Apple, and it's just kind of a full circle, because I left Apple to have him, and now he went back and he's there designing iPhones and everything else. So
That's amazing. You're a wonderful inspiration to them, I'm sure. And I loved hearing your story. It was really great, really cool. And I love the full circle of it. He's right back where he belongs, right? Let's hear a little bit more from Haley. Haley, tell us about yourself and your business.
So hi there, everybody. Thank you for having me. So my name is Haley Seeger. I am a full-time content creator and influencer. I actually started making YouTube videos in 2008. I was 12 years old, and I've been doing it ever since. I actually only went full-time with it, though, about last fall. So I just hit my 1-year anniversary of being self-employed. But before I became self-employed, I did my YouTube in conjunction with working in the fashion industry, specifically bridal. So that's actually my background. And then last spring, I kind of had my light bulb idea of reinventing swimwear. So I'm also a founder of a swimwear company called One With, and that's actually how I got connected into the UConn Entrepreneurship Network, because I was encouraged by my business advisor to apply for the summer fellowship program. So I went through that with UConn xCITE over the summer to kind of hone my business plan and all of the other details of this company that I founded. And that's been so amazing. And the connections I received through UConn has been so amazing. So I'm just super grateful for that. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. And again, I'm super excited to be here.
Love that you started so young. You know, you're never too young to begin in entrepreneurship. That's what I tell my girls for sure.
Exactly.
So happy to have you with us. I am going to throw out a panel to all these really amazing, impressive women, throw out a question. How did you combat your fear of putting yourself out there or doing something new? What tips or hacks can you give to our audience?
I guess I'll jump in.
Okay,
One of the first things I thought about when I decided that I wanted to start a business is that I talked to other business owners. And I talked to several women, particularly women of color, who had done entrepreneurship and had left corporate America and started running their businesses. And I really wanted to get a sense for how difficult is it really? Like, what am I getting in for? What don't I know? What's around the corner that I perhaps can't see? And I think the more I started to get educated about what it's like being a business owner, the more the fear started to subside, because it's one of those things that my fear was more of I didn't know what I didn't know. But then once I started to know what I needed to know, it made it much of an easier jump. I felt like when I left my company, I felt like I was jumping off a cliff into the unknown, and would I sink or would I swim, you know? But I think the more I talked to people, the more I got comfortable about what I was in for. And I just made sure that I was preparing myself to really be up for the task.
Yeah, and I would just add to that it does feel a lot like jumping off a cliff because you're leaving a lot behind. I went from being in my 30s in an executive level position, making high six figures, and leaving it all behind to spend my savings on starting a business. And it was a really scary decision to make. And I was also getting married at the time. And my now husband was like, wait a minute, you're wanting, now that I put a ring on it, you want to quit your job and start a business?
Yes.
he knew it wasn't about that because he knew me and he supported me and what I wanted to do. But what I did to really help alleviate those fears was I had I mitigated risk, right? I looked at, okay, I'm quitting my job. I'm leaving this income on the table. I'm trying something I've never done before. I got mentors, I got advisors, but I also took on some part-time work. I'd always wanted to be a teacher. I had always wanted to teach at the college level. So I started adjuncting as well. So it gave me the freedom. There's flexibility in the adjuncting. I got really a lot of joy out of teaching, and I really miss teaching. I hope to go back to it one day, but I got a lot of joy out of teaching, but also had a little bit of income coming in, a little bit of security as part of that while I was also trying to start my business. And then looking to things like the WBDC and joining a co-working space and being around other entrepreneurs and stuff really, really helped a lot. To mitigate that risk and also that fear of what's to come. You kind of reduce the uncertainty of that unknown a bit.
Definitely. I think, is there something that pushed you right over the edge that made you really just like one final straw that said, I'm going to go for it? Or is it just kind of a cumulative process for you?
Yeah, actually I was writing a book at the time. I had gone back to school and got certified as a holistic health coach.
Okay.
And I was doing health coaching on the side. And I was helping all these people and giving them all this advice about self-care. You had mentioned, Charlene, earlier about like, as women, you don't take care of yourself and you put everybody else first. So I kept seeing that a lot with the health coaching I was doing at the time. And so I sat down to write this book. And as I'm writing this book and giving all this advice about making time for yourself and following your dreams and setting goals and accomplishing them, I'm like, I'm not even following my own advice. Like, how can I be writing this book if I can't follow my own advice? So I quit my job, focused on the book and getting my business off the ground.
Sometimes it's hard to take our own advice, but we really need to, definitely, for sure. Anyone else had something to share related to how they kind of got over that fear?
So I just wanted to add, I guess, I don't know if I've ever really had a fear of this. It's basically forced into situations, and how do you survive that? So I think you were talking about your pathway not being, direct, and I kind of told my life story once, and someone came up to me and said, that's really obstacles created your path. And so I had to jump into the business both times because of, I think, really situation of being a woman in, just in your life. Like once when I had my kid, and I'm like, what can I do to keep a part-time business? And then secondly, this Haven was kind of created because of an obstacle, just being, older. It's not so easy to get a job at a certain point. So I really did have to just jump in and create my business. So, I didn't have a fear about it, because what are my other options?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's never an easy decision, but it sounds like we all arrive there eventually, despite our different paths. Would you say that becoming an entrepreneur has made you more confident? This can be for anyone. Jump in.
Yes, I'll say yes. I think that inherently it has forced me to kind of put myself in situations where even if I'm not ready for them, I have to conjure up that confidence and act like I'm ready for it. And it really is like a fake it till you make it type of situation. So I think even if you don't necessarily have the confidence going into a certain project or a certain role or something like that, I think you really are forced to, like I said, conjure it up and show up. And after a while, that becomes routine, and you really start to believe in that facet of your personality, that confidence. So I think that that's really interesting to see that play out.
Definitely, the more we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, the more we'll work hard to get there. So we'll actually often do better. I'm going to see that you have the similar, I think I see a lot of head nodding. So I'm sure many of you had a similar experience.
I think for me, my confidence ebbed and flowed. In order to start this business, I mean, we all have to have pretty high confidence in ourselves and our ability to make it work. But I think for me, after I got started and I saw the bottom fall out of the market, which was my business, right? My clients are hedge fund owners, and they were shutting their doors, and I started to think, oh my God, what have I done? Am I up for this? And so my confidence, I think, started to take a hit for a while there. But it wasn't until I really had to reach in and say, okay, you are up for this, you can do this. And I really had to psych myself into getting my confidence back. And I think once I got my mojo back, then there was no stopping me at that point. But there was a time period there where I started to wonder, do I need to go back and get a job again? Like, did I make the right decision? Do I have what it takes to actually pull this off?
I think that happens for many entrepreneurs. The confidence goes up and down. We're feeling great one day on top of the world, and then some minor setback and we're right back to the bottom again. So it's up and down. It's never just consistent. I think probably for many of you, have any of you suffered from imposter syndrome, or really that feeling that you didn't quite belong, or you've only gotten lucky? What would you say?
I would definitely say, being in my industry that is dominated by men, I had an experience where I went to a trade show, and not a single person tried to scan my badge. It was myself and my sales manager who went. Nobody looked at me. They were all like, oh, she's just the wife of, not actually somebody who can make the decision. And my sales manager was laughing so hard. He's like, they got no idea I couldn't make a decision to go with them no matter what. And you have all the power, and here you are just floating around the room, taking everything in. And I found that whenever something like that happens, I now have this like secret look into something where I'm like, all right, now I can really see what's going on here. Nobody's BSing me. I can see through all of this. This one I like, that one, oh no, not going anywhere near that. And I've tried to turn these moments where I went and had my my confidence totally rocked, and tried to turn them into something where I'm like, no, I got this. This is why I'm here. I can do this, and try to spin it on myself.
Yeah, I think sometimes when people underestimate you, you can really show them, and you can learn a lot more about yourself. And I always take it as a personal challenge. Okay, you don't think I can do that? I'll show you. So I think it's great that you embrace that attitude and used it to your advantage. How about anyone else? Did you suffer with feeling like an imposter ever, or do you still have moments of that even though you're quite successful now?
Yeah, I don't have moments of that anymore now, but I know at the beginning I'm in a similar situation as was it Felicia? No, it wasn't Felicia. I'm going to draw a blank on who owns the trash company, Julie. So I'm in the financial services industry, which I always joke that it couldn't be more white man, dominated. And here I am, this Black woman. I used to seeing myself in very white spaces. And a lot of times that imposter syndrome would creep up, particularly because people didn't really have much faith in my ability, and that would show in their dismissive comments or microaggressions that I would see. And at the beginning, I was 41, but I shouldn't have been that young, but I felt like the youngest, most immature person in the room, primarily because people in the room tried to make me feel that way. But then I think something came over me where I started to realize, and similar to the point someone made earlier, that a lot of men will apply for a job when they've only got 60% of the requirements. And as I listened to them, I realized you've only got 60% of what you should know. And I got 100 because I made sure I was prepared. I actually went to business school before I started my company. And so once I realized that dynamic is what was going on, the imposter syndrome went completely away.
Good for you. And that's exactly what you have to start realizing and telling yourself that. And when you do look around, it can become really apparent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, like, I'm a woman running a tech company. I don't have a tech background. I come from a sales and marketing and communications background. I was a project manager for several years for a large insurance company where I did technology projects and stuff and learned a lot about it. But then when I set off on this journey, it was like a lot of people were like, A, you're not male, you're a woman in tech, and then B, you're not a software engineer. So what right do you have to be starting a technology company? And I had to remind myself that I had all of these skills and all this background of like running departments and major departments within major organizations. And like, I knew what it took to build a good team around me and to be successful. And so I had to remind myself a lot that I have the skills to build an amazing team that can do amazing things. I don't have to be a technologist to run a tech company. And so that's what I did. I went out and I found an amazing team to help support me and be around me and to build the technology, right? And then as an entrepreneur, you fail a lot. You are going to get hit after hit. You talked about that, Charlene, earlier. And one of the things, I always use the analogy, those blow up clown punching bags with the weight in the bottom, the bop bags that you hit it and it pops back up and you hit it and you pop back up. That is what it's like to be an entrepreneur every single day. You're going to get knocked down constantly, and you just have to keep popping back up and reminding yourself that I can do this. I believe in myself. I believe what I'm doing. The reason why so many startups and businesses fail is because people just give up. So don't give up. You have to know how to listen to your customer, to admit when you've made a mistake, and to pivot and improve and move forward and learn from those failures. But you also have to learn how to take those hits and not let that make you feel like, oh, I failed, I'm an imposter. No, it's, oh, I failed, I'm learning and I'm moving forward and using that to make myself better and make my business better.
What do you do to bring yourself out of that kind of negative way of thinking to improve your mood and turn it around? Do you have any tricks that you can share?
I could share some tricks. I feel like it's every day lately, this past 8 months, but I do a lot of inner thinking. I go, one of the things that's most important to me is to try to see sunrise and sunset every day, because like that's a steady thing that happens. So that's it's really calming for me, as well as I work out a lot. So I have to swim, I have to walk, I have to do some exercises online. And I also have a timer by my desk, and I try to set like little goals, and just like 45 minutes, I say, okay, I'm going to finish this goal in 45 minutes. So all those things combined, have really helped me. Like actually right before this panel, I went and saw sunset, which was really calming for me, because maybe in terms of the imposter syndrome, I really hate speaking in front of people. I'm very shy. I'd rather just like have everybody else around me. You know, I'm the quiet one in the back and let everybody else kind of run the show. So that helps a lot to, you know, to do some of these things.
So calm down. Well, you're doing great, and you're sharing a lot of valuable information, which I'm sure can support all of the other women we're talking to. So we really appreciate that. And I love sunsets too and sunrises, but I miss them a lot of times. So I'm going to have to take your advice and maybe set a little timer for myself so I can catch them. What about, I want to ask the panel now, do any of you have a mentor, or have you had a mentor, or is there a person or a group of people that you go to for support?
I can jump in on that. So UConn actually has connected me with so many people, and I realized this today. I'm in the fortunate position where if I have something come up, a business question, a business problem especially, I realize that I pretty much have an advisor or a mentor that could help me with essentially, you know, in doses at least, with essentially anything that I encounter. Someone has expertise, someone has done, you know, something like this before, encountered this situation before that I can call on, email, whatever it might be. And that's so huge. And that's a network that I didn't even have even a year ago. And again, UConn and Small Business Development Center here in Connecticut has helped me a ton with that. And also just being an influencer and online for the last 12 years, I've had the, you know, experience of being able to be connected with a lot of other people virtually. So yeah, the mentorship and advisor, you know, sort of role is huge. And has helped so much. And like I said, I'm kind of new to it even. And it's absolutely, you know, incredible resource to have.
That's wonderful. That's been so great for you. I always recommend get your girl gang together, get those people in place so that you can reach out to them anytime. Anyone else had a mentor that has really helped them along?
Yeah, I've had a group of mentors. I mean, one primary mentor, the one that I mentioned that I talked to before I started ICS Group, and I've had two other mentors. And throughout my career on the corporate side, I was always made very much aware of how important it is to have not only mentors, but sponsors, and what the difference is between the two and what they each can help you with. And so going into entrepreneurship, I made a point of making sure I was armed with groups of both. And I would say that my most important mentors and sponsors, I worked really hard to cultivate those relationships and relied on them for a lot of different things. And eventually I invited three of my best mentors and sponsors to serve as advisors on my company's advisory board. And then that way I felt like, okay, now it's official. Now I can really rely on you. And I don't know how anybody goes into business on their own without that board of directors, if you will, in terms of people who are there to assist, to help get you into a room, to help make an introduction, and even to help me on those days where I feel like, you know, what have I done? You know, why am I doing? And they motivate me, and they give me that I guess that faith in myself to keep going. And I don't know how I could have made it without my mentors.
Yeah. And that's great. And I'm sure you're turning around and giving back too at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, I mentor a ton of people at the same time, and that's what led to ICS Group, right? Because that's what I've always done for the next generation up, and even my peers too. But
yeah, and I was going to say, like Haley and Medina, I have a whole set of mentors, different mentors and advisors for different things, like some that help with the business side, the business planning, the marketing, stuff like that. Others that help with legal advice, others that help with financial planning and financial modeling, others that help with the technology stuff when we get stuck on like a problem and how do we overcome that problem. Let's think creatively around that. But I also did want to mention, you asked about the giving back. I also learn a lot from mentoring, right? And so I would tell people it's never too early to start mentoring. You don't realize how much you've learned once you start doing this. And when you're mentoring people, you're learning as well, because they're asking questions and they're making you think, and you're trying to help guide them. And you're learning from that experience as well. So it's really important to not only have mentors, but to be a mentor, because it's a learning process and beneficial for everybody involved in that.
Yes, it's totally full circle like we were talking about before. So it looks like we've got a few great questions from the audience. So with so many opportunities in the world around us, how do you choose what the best choice or decision is for you? I guess this is in terms of business and in terms of your career path. Anyone have any advice there?
I am more than happy to take that one. This is a lot of what my TEDx was about. You know, I started really young in my career. I started working at Merrill Lynch when I was 18 years old, worked there for 3 years, got recruited to an insurance company, recruited to another one, and just climbed the ladder really quickly, and was in my 20s in high-level positions, making 6 figures. But the higher I kept climbing, the unhappier I became. And then when I finally decided that I was going to leave my corporate career, that path wasn't for me, that it wasn't what was fulfilling me. It wasn't fulfilling my sense of purpose and like driving me every day. It was leaving me empty. I switched to becoming the health and life coach and an author. And then I realized that, hey, you know, as much as I'm into health and wellness and helping others, this isn't really for me. And so I went back to my communication roots and had a public speaking and communication coaching business that I'm whittling down at this point in time, because in Captive so busy I don't really have time to do that anymore. And I did the teaching, and now I'm really focused on in Captive, and I love what I do all day, every single day. It's just really exciting and fulfilling. And so the advice I would give around that is, don't be afraid to try different things. Don't be afraid to try and fail. Don't be afraid to change your mind. Your path doesn't have to be climbing ladders or climbing stairs, and your path doesn't have to be a straight road. It can be a really windy and I can't say that word, circuitous road. Like you can, you know, it doesn't have to be a straight path. So don't be afraid to try and fail. And also, you know, ladies, we have fantastic intuition. Trust your gut, trust your intuition, and do your homework as well. You know, look at, is there a market need for it? And, you know, if you're planning on becoming an entrepreneur, will this business be successful? What's the opportunity here? Or are you just going to be spinning your wheels? And listen, not everybody needs to build a unicorn either. You know, some people are going to be building these massive businesses. They're going to be multi-billion-dollar businesses, big Facebooks and things like that. Others are going to start small businesses and restaurants and coaching practices. And so it's finding what you're passionate about and aligning those passions with your skills and with the need that's in the marketplace. And that will help you kind of figure it out. But then also find mentors, find coaches, find programs like this. You know, they offer so many programs at UConn. Haley talked about what she's gotten out of that program. So look to those things, join communities like Haven, and get that feedback and advice, and you'll land on it. But don't be afraid to land on a few other things on the way there.
I think you're absolutely right. It's a lot of trial and error until you get to where you're meant to be. When you're young, if someone told you what you'd end up doing, you'd say, really? Is that where I'm going? But
I would have never said I'd be doing this in a million years.
And I never
looked like you were going to say something. Oops, sorry.
If I could add to it too, I think I love what Shannon said, and it's like everything, you know, the passion and the purpose. I call it grit. You have to have the grit too. So grit, I call it the intersection between purpose and passion, and especially these days. But another piece is having patience. This Haven idea, I actually found myself out of a job for the first time in 40 years and kind of just took 6 months off and wandered the streets trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And, you know, I just spent a lot of time learning, and maybe not even learning about like entrepreneur stuff, but I was listening to how I built this and just reading a lot, going to visit museums, and it kind of was an inspiration for me. And it just, everything kind of combined to create it. And so I would recommend sometimes just taking a step back and doing nothing and letting it come to you. So I kind of felt like the universe answered and said, this is what you're meant to do next.
Definitely helps to take that time to regroup whenever anything happens or we're unsure, just to really pause and reflect on it and see where our heart is and what we are really passionate about and what we really want to do in the world. I have another great question from our audience.
during COVID, what single piece of advice would you give to entrepreneurs that are trying to pivot when clients in their industry are laid off? Anyone want that one?
That's a tough one. You know, when we talk about pivoting, I gave a talk, what's today? Last week to a group about, and my topic was finding opportunity in the midst of chaos, right? And so many people think, oh my God, we're in this pandemic, folks are losing their jobs. They just envision this massive just destruction. And the message I was trying to relay is that in any bad situation, there are always bright lights, and find the bright light. And the bright light during COVID, there's so many of them that are just presenting themselves. You know, I have a friend who started giving instruction in terms of how to use Zoom. She now teaches grandparents how to get on Zoom so they can see their grandkids. Like, who would have thought, right? And I have always on the side been a real estate investor. I've dabbled and flipped a few properties, but now in the midst of a pandemic, unfortunately, the foreclosure market is blowing up, right? So there's so much opportunity for folks who have an interest in doing that. There's a lot of opportunity for folks who are interested in doing this contact tracing and masks and all of the economics around living through a pandemic. There's just so many opportunities. And I would say if you have a business that is not doing well, look for what is doing well and then just pivot yourself in that direction. You know, I know here in Atlanta, where I am, a restaurant owner was not doing well through the pandemic. And so they started a drive-in in their parking lot, and they would serve food and show the movies on the big screen, and cars would pull up and you deliver the food to their cars and they'd watch a movie in their car with their family. And it is a huge hit. So there's always a positive side. It's just a matter of looking out there, looking more broadly at what you're doing, and then just trying to figure out what is society and what is the market calling for now. And how do I reform or transform what I'm doing to fit that additional need? And it's out there. I would say just be observant and then just pivot in that direction.
And I can speak from experience because Encaptive started as a platform for in-person presentations. And at the beginning of this year, we were just getting ready to launch our in-person events aspect. And then, of course, COVID hit. And everything we had built, our whole technology was built on this premise of providing like the benefits of technology in an in-person situation, the interactivity, the data, the analytics, all of that kind of stuff, the calls to action, getting people to take next steps. And our business was going to die because of COVID, because we had our first major client that was supposed to use it at a 15,000 person conference in April, and we had to cancel that. The conference got canceled. And so we started talking to our customers, we started listening, we started looking at the market need and kept hearing, we need a full-fledged end-to-end virtual events platform that does this, 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 and this. So I started going, okay, this is what our customers are saying they need. This is what the industry is saying they need. Here's what's in the marketplace. Here's where's gaps. Here's the pros of those platforms. Here's the cons of them. How can we try to fill those holes and create a better virtual experience? Now, we're still a very young product. We built this entire thing in 6 months, and we have a long way to go on our product roadmap, but we've now had several events on the platform, and we're moving forward. We had a couple of great events this past week. So you just listen and keep your eyes and ears open. And it's always the thing that's right in front of your face that is the most obvious thing that is a need to be fulfilled.
Absolutely. And people nowadays, as you mentioned, they're desperate to find safe ways to entertain themselves. We're all going stir crazy. So anything we can come up with in terms of entertainment outdoors, or, you know, a safe way to go out and eat out or do something, it's really a good opportunity for someone who's pivoting, as many of you mentioned. What would you say, maybe Haley, I'll give this one to you. What advice would you give to avoid and prevent burnout as an entrepreneur?
That's a fantastic question. So and I was just thinking about this today, one thing that I kind of made a promise to myself for when I started this entrepreneurial journey, specifically with the swimwear company that I founded, was that I was going to stop spreading myself so thin and giving my time away so much to other people, to the point where I didn't have enough for myself. And this is obviously playing on, Charlene, what you were saying in terms of self-care at the very beginning. But this year, 2020, has been the year of like me, my selfish year, if you will. And that, for the first time ever, I don't feel the burnout that I normally have like this time of year. So that has helped a lot. And then also I do have a 7-day work week. But what that means is I'm scheduling meetings as I want to take them. I will sometimes do things on the weekend. I know some people don't like doing that. I personally like the kind of flow of just doing, you know, if I want to go out and have lunch with a friend, you know, at noon on a Monday, so be it. I'll make up that work, you know, the following weekend. I just kind of have this really, really easy workflow that I build around the way that I work and the things that I not only need to do, but also want to do. And that helps with the balance and then just avoiding burnout on the whole. But again, this is my kind of year of being like a little selfish and like going to lunch with my friend if I want to, where in the past I haven't done that. So this is my year to do that.
I think that's great. And I find that I'm often that way too. I might be in the mood to do some writing one day. I might not be another day. So I kind of try to adjust depending on what I have going on. And it's great. One of the perks of being an entrepreneur is you can kind of modify your schedule that way. Julie, do you have any tips about maintaining that work-life balance that you can share with the audience?
I think being honest with yourself. I think as women, we want to, if somebody asks us for help or wants us to do something or be a part of something, our first instinct is to say, yes, of course, I'm going to help you. I want to be a part of what helps you be successful. But sometimes you can't give all of yourself all the time to everything. Sometimes you just have to say, no, I can't be a part of that. I want to. I think it's a great cause, or I think it's a great whatever. But I have to say, I can't give it my 100% that I want to, and I'm going to have to say no this time.
Yes, learning to say no is so important for women. And it's hard for us to do because we want to say yes to everyone. We want to please them. We want to take care of everyone, as we talked about before. So that's really great advice. I'm glad you brought that up. So we're coming sort of towards the end of our panel here. So I want to ask all of the panelists one last question. What one single piece of advice do you want to leave the audience with as it pertains to entrepreneurship or empowering yourself as a leader? I can start with Shannon. I'll go in our same order again.
Sure. I'd say the biggest advice that I have is, like you said, when you were speaking earlier, being an entrepreneur is a long road. I always like to use the quote, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. So don't think that you're just going to start this business and then you're going to be like an influencer or tech titan or at the top of your game or running the business and being super profitable overnight. It takes time and it takes a lot of hard work. So be prepared for that. You just need to believe in yourself. You got to learn from your failures. Do not let your failures defeat you, because as I said earlier, you're going to have a lot of failures as an entrepreneur. Don't let them defeat you. Let them fuel you. Learn from them and fail forward, right? Everything's a learning experience. Everything's an opportunity, and just don't give up. Believe in yourself. Believe in your abilities. You know, positive psychology, it's all about mindset. If you believe you can do it and you stick to your guns and you keep moving forward, you will do it. You will accomplish it.
Absolutely. Bend like bamboo, as they say. Medina, how about you?
So Shannon had such great remarks, and I'm following her and saying everything I would have said, Shannon. The one thing I would add to that is entrepreneurship can be lonely. You know, you're starting this business, you're working primarily as the sole owner of the business, unless you're smart enough to start it with a partner. But make sure that you are not working in a silo. Like, join other industry groups and associations, and start networking groups with other people who are in your same industry. So you basically have coworkers, although you don't really. But you need to have people that you can bounce ideas off of, who can let you know about different conferences or webinars that are going on that you hadn't heard about. And just make sure that you stay connected, because it's so easy to get so bogged down into the work, and you're keeping your head down, and there's this world going on out there around you, and you're not staying on top of new trends and new information. And so I would say definitely make sure that you're staying connected as you go about starting your business and doing the hard work that takes too.
Absolutely. That is excellent advice as always. Julie.
Wow, this is tough being third with great people with lots of good things to say here. I think my piece of advice would be listen to people. You don't have to do what they say, but listen. Really listen. Don't be listening and thinking of the response that you're going to retort right back to them. Really listen. Sometimes you will get these incredible gems that will help you take the next step, and you weren't expecting where it came from. And then if you find somebody who's really good at something, and they really want to be a part of it and help move forward, sometimes it's okay to lean on some other people a little bit. As much as we want to be able to do it all ourselves, every once in a while it's okay to ask for help and to accept that help.
Definitely. The more you talk to other people, the more ideas you'll get. And even if it's not the exact idea you need, it will lead you to think down a different path, which will help you. Thanks, Julie. I appreciate that. Felicia.
I think that it's very hard again after the three of you speaking, but and I agree with all of those pieces. I had that all written down to talk about. But one thing that I feel very strongly about, and someone told me at the beginning of COVID again, was you need to carry your own sunshine. And when you do have that positivity, it attracts other people to you. And, so I've had little goals since March, since everything kind of turned around, and they're slowly happening. And just my positivity, I think, affects the people around me too. So that's been a really good thing to think about right now.
Absolutely. Agreed. What about Haley? Last but not least.
So echoing what Medina said about trying to not work in a silo, that's actually one of the many reasons that I joined Haven, Felicia's co-working space, which I highly recommend. It's helped me so much to just feel like reinvigorated and being around people, because I work right here all day every day, so it helps to surround yourself just with like the buzz and atmosphere, especially if you're doing something creative. But
safely though, right?
Yes, at Haven. Yes. So my biggest tip though is consistency. I might not be like the biggest YouTuber or have the biggest following, but I am nothing if not consistent. Nobody can say that I am not consistent. I have produced videos for, every week, multiple times a week for the last 12 years. And that, ultimately allowed me to be able to go full time. So that's my biggest tip, is just keep on keeping on, because ultimately I feel like that is what is kind of like the pass fail of a lot of people. So that is like my biggest thing, is just stay consistent.
Persistence and consistency is key. Did I miss anyone? I got everyone, right? Mm-hmm. All right, we're good. This was a wonderful discussion. I've been so impressed with everything you've had to share. It's been truly terrific. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lucy to wrap things up.
Thank you. Wow. I've got pages and pages of notes here. And I'm now going to find my bright light. My obstacles will create my path. It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Brief. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, panelists. I want to follow up on a couple of things that Charlene said, which was network and mastermind groups. And Medina talked about the loneliness of the journey. And really our plans for the spring are to launch some small scale workshops and to start some of these mastermind sessions, so that we can really help all of you really come together, really build your networks, lean on each other, learn from one another, listen to each other. My goodness, I could go on and on. But you've all heard the speakers say it much more eloquently than I can. So thank you to all our attendees. One of the things that is coming up in next steps, as you can now see on the screen, is we're going to be sending out a survey. So again, trying to understand a little bit more about, what you're looking for in these next sessions, what you're looking for in workshops. This is really meant to be a collaborative group where we can all work together and help each other and really sort of grow on our entrepreneurship journeys. They will all look different. Some of you started at 12, my goodness. Some of you started in your 40s, but it doesn't really matter, right? Rich Dino, who many of you know, he says, the view from the top, there are many paths up the mountain, but the view from the top remains the same. And so we will all find our path. And part of it is enjoying that journey. So thank you to Charlene. Thank you to our panelists. Great fun, lots of points. Please feel free to reach out to all of them. We've put a lot of information in the chat. And we look forward to connecting with you at the cci@uconn.edu, and really sort of building this supporting women in the entrepreneurship space. So thank you to all of you for being here, and have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you.